and I want to teach him all the fundamentals and switch up his style just a little bit. We go to High Desert Boxing where Ryan Garcia boxed and came up. So I know those guys pretty good. We go up there, we box. But with all the fighters, I wasn't able to spend the time that I wanted with him. And so when we got to SoCal, I was watching how the scoring was going, and they were not going like, they're amateur judges also.
Yeah.
And I saw what was up, and they weren't really doing it like they give you the courses, like especially at USA Boxing Camp, all that kind of stuff. It was not going like that. So I made last minute decision. I said, Angel, you just go in there and do whatever the hell you want. And he's like, really? And I was like, yeah, just fight your way, because he had been like withholding his punches, trying to box. And I just said, do whatever you want. And he said, okay. And he's the one I knew absolutely had no chance at getting the belt. He's the only one that got it. And I was like, dang. And he used like probably about 70% of what I taught him. And then he just let the other, 30%, 30% out of just animal. And they stopped it in the first round.
That's what a fight is. See, you learn to box to subsidize where you're not good at fighting. And you learn to fight after you master boxing, because that's what's left, the dog, the intangibles. And so that's what he won with, intangibles. That's available. Anytime you got a fighter that just doesn't look the part in training, you got to remember he's a fighter learning to box, not a boxer learning to fight. You feel me?
That makes sense.
So never worry, because when it comes down to getting bit in the ring, they know how to bite back, and they will fight back. So that's usually when you're going to find your superstars. Yeah. They're going to look, they just don't look the part during training, because they're not really boxers. They're fighters that want to box. They want to know how to box. And boxing helps them in scenarios, but it's not who they are. They fighters. And they show up on fight night. And they usually win when you least expect it. And that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just
so you said they learn to box to subsidize fighting?
So what happens is you can fight, but if you fight a boxer, let's just say somebody like a Shakur Stevens, someone like a Lomachenko, like you're going to lose because they're going to box you. So a fighter has to subsidize by adding enough boxing to get him back to that place where he can fight on you. He can't just come fighting, or he's going to get blown away with great footwork and elusiveness and walking the punches. So he learns to box as well, so that can subsidize those moments where he wants to fight, but he knows it's not a good idea because he's being set up, right? And so when you watch a guy who's a prize fighter, he's fighting and he's not winning. Go back to Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns. Thomas Hearns was winning, and he was beating Sugar Ray for the first part of the fight. And then Sugar Ray said, fuck this, and started fighting and started winning. And then Thomas Hearns like, this, I'm going to start boxing and start back winning. And so that was one of the most ebb and flow fights. And it was a guy using boxing when the other guy was fighting. And then the other guy uses fighting when the other guy was just out boxing him. And he just was like, I can't box with him, so I got to fight him. Lennox Lewis versus Frank Bruno. Frank Bruno was just smashing Lennox Lewis with the jab. Go watch that fight. That's the perfect analogy. And then Lennox Lewis said, F this. I'm about to throw these gloves off and we about to go in the back schoolyard. And he just was like, start throwing hammers. And that's why you want to teach the guy boxing. But you have to find out and measure him. How much intangible does he have? Fortitude. Is he a dog, or he's just a guy who just loves to box and has nothing else? Because that'll show up eventually. Donald Curry, great fighter. The thing about it is when guys decided to fight him in the pros, Mark Breland, another good boxer, but when guys decide to fight him in the pros, he became different. He didn't have that same killer in him. And so you'll find that in particular Michael Nunn. As long as he could box you really good and keep you at bay and beat you up out there, he was a killer. And then he ran into James Toney.
Right. And that inside took him.
And then, overhand right in the 11th round after losing every round. It turned into a fight. And that's what you'll find when you see some of these guys. They can fight, they can box, but they can't fight. And then if you find a fighter who can't box, that's gonna run out too in the pros. So that's why you have to subsidize and learn boxing. So either way, you got to have the other. You can't just box, or you just can't fight. You have to be versatile. That's why the school is laid out like it is.
I subscribed. I'm in the school, and I took a quick little browse through it, and I can already see it's worth the money. I'm already happy. I haven't even gone through it.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard, brother. Welcome aboard.
Man. Follow for more. So long.
Hey, I said, where my money, man?